Recently, Charlie Kirk chronicled the devastation, as I have too before, but if you're on the same page as Charlie Kirk, you're on the right track. Recently, Charlie Kirk chronicled the devastation caused by the fatherless children in the Black Lives Matter movement and asked how many more black folks were murdered because the BLM movement got their fatherless supporters ginned up, causing them to have fits and wreck their communities. I believe I can come close to answering that question. In a typical year, more black folks are murdered than all other races combined, and they are usually murdered by other black folks. Why is that? Why aren't Asians murdering Asians in droves indiscriminately? And some of you are saying, well, you've been over this before, but again, the commies aren't tired. These commies like Stan Cedar that don't have a real job, they're just going to sit on their fat asses and recite it all day. We have to push back. They have a lot of free time. We have to push back on it. Why aren't Asians murdering Asians? Maybe because they grew up with a daddy in the home, and I'm Asian, and did not brainwash their kids from birth inside the home and at a failing government school that the world is against them and they'll fail. The soft bigotry of low expectations. According to the FBI, get a load of this, the U.S. murder rate 2016-2019, 5.2 per 100,000. The murder rate 2020 and 2021, 6.8 per 100,000. A staggering increase. Most of that being laid at the feet of the George Floyd riots. Keep in mind the FBI usually adjusts the previous year total when the current report comes out, so it might change slightly. Now let us take a look at the NIMBRS data and find out what percent of murder victims and offenders where we know the race of the victim or perp were black, 2016 and 2019. There were 23,688 offenders, and 56.5% of them were black in 2016 to 2019. From 2016 to 2019, 21,695 victims were know the race of the victim, and 51.59% of them were black. From 2020 to 2021, the NIMBRS data tells us 23,034 murder offenders, where we know the race of the offenders, and 13,707, or 59.5% of them were black. From 2020 to 2021, the NIMBRS data gives us 24,584 victims of murder, and of those victims where we know the race of the victim, 14,382, or 58.5%, were black. The murder rate in the latter time frame, 2020-21, as you know, was a lot higher than the former time period, 2016 and 2019, and the percent of murder victims that were black and offenders that were black increased substantially as well. That wasn't by accident. It appears that despite the whining of carnival barkers like the divorcee Stan Cedar, Black Lives Matter accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They created more chaos. They pined for fragmented families because they hate nuclear families. You may remember Black Lives Matter removed an anti-Western family screed, Western nuclear family screed from their website. They want fatherless children. They need chaos. These dysfunctional people are more likely to vote with them. They don't want people with intact families. Right, Stan Cedar? You've got a fragmented family, don't you? Because your wife left you. And they use millions of idiots, Black Lives Matter used millions of idiots as pawns in their game. I realize more jurisdictions are going to the NIMBRS data, so this may not correlate exactly. But from 2016 to 2019, there were an average of 2,798.25 black people murdered each year. From 2020 to 2021, it was 7,191 black people murdered each year. Can you believe that? It is not a stretch to say that the vacuous AOC, the divorcee Stan Cedar, Maxine Waters, and the rest of the BLM crew caused 8,000 more black people to be murdered because they wanted race riots over the George Floyd events. Think about that. 8,000 black people are dead because of the BLM riots, most likely. They cared not what this caused, that this caused a lot of innocent black folks to get murdered in the wake of these events. They were trying to intimidate all of America. Give us what we want or we riot. Well, if you riot in Iowa and block the street, you will get arrested. If you riot, and my neighbor's mowing his yard, if you riot in Iowa and attempt to burn businesses down, you will end up in prison, or if you're really unlucky, you might run into a concealed carrier defending his business. You see, folks like the uneducated AOC, the divorcee Stan Cedar, Maxine Waters, Don Lemonhead, limp wrist Anderson Cooper, Patrice Cullors, the obese Joy Reid, the bipolar Anna Kasparian, Mr. Milky Toast Chris Hayes, from MSNBC, and the rest of them do not care. They were hoping their Marxist vision of America would be realized in the wake of the riots, but all they did was cause hundreds of thousands of people to leave New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois, and California for states that don't allow violent felons to run loose and flaunt the rule of law. That will not happen in Iowa. You try that here and you will get a reckoning. That might fly in California, that might work in New York City, Portland, or Chicago, but try it here and it will be the final time. Guaranteed. Those folks will be sitting on their asses doing nothing, but they realize in chess the pawns go first. They'll remain on the outside looking in until the shelves are empty, and then I will have a good laugh. Maybe then America will get the reset it needs. The Democrats realize rural America is a threat to their vision. We own our homes. We are stockpiling non-perishable items, among other things. And we do not allow fatherless children to burn half the town down like what has happened in Portland and the Twin Cities. Think about that, folks. 8,000 more black people, and a lot of them were innocent, just minding their own business, waiting for the bus or waiting for mom to pick them up, and some hood rats are going down the street shooting at each other, and a young black kid takes a bullet in the brain because of a drive-by that was intended for someone else. How many of them, and of course some of them obviously were probably gangbangers that just getting a receipt, but how many innocent black people were murdered because of this? 8,000 more black people murdered over the death of a career drug addict and criminal, all because they want me and you to finance the health care of drug addicts and let career felons escape the prison terms they deserve. Jordan Neely is a perfect example of that. If New York City didn't flaunt the rule of law, he'd be in jail or locked up in an asylum, insane asylum somewhere, and he'd still be alive. He was a bully who bullied children and the elderly until he picked on the wrong Marine. The biggest threat to black folks in America is not white supremacy, and it's not someone waving the Confederate flag or the police. It is other blacks, and particularly young black men. And until divorcees like Stan Cedar realize that, and he doesn't want to admit it. He's like, you've seen the Wrath of Khan. When Khan's going down, he's still cursing Kirk just as he's dying, just as he knows it's over, but he still doesn't repent. He still spits insults at Captain Kirk right until, and I'm not a fan of Star Trek, but I always found that interesting. So rather than realize the truth, you'll have communities like New York City absolutely destroyed, in Portland and the Twin Cities and Chicago. You'd rather see them destroyed than admit the truth. That's a mental illness. So until you realize that, we're not going to get anywhere. And like I said, there's a lot of people moving in this country. They're moving to more hospitable places because we're not going to put up with your crap. You won't try it here. Have a nice day. And here's Charlie Kirk.
Oh, just play 204 while I'm talking. Ryan, this is going to be hard for people on radio or on podcasting, but I want you to see cut 204, just the before and after. It is so tragic. Look at what happened since BLM took over the country. Just these beautiful diners, these beautiful shops. It looks as if the virus of anti-racism, the bacterial infection of BLM, Black Lives Matter, did more damage than Russian forces have done in Bakhmut. You literally could not replicate the damage that BLM did to Black America. More people have died in the Floyd crime wave, black people, than ever died at the hands of lynching in America. That is a fact. But white liberals are doing just fine. White liberals this summer will be in the Hamptons, wining and dining to champagne, talk with their gated communities, full-time security, miles away from gang activity, while their kids go to private schools, saying that the real problem is white supremacy. Joe Biden will repeat that the biggest problem is white supremacy. No, there's a lot bigger problems than white supremacy, like black dads not being around, like black crime, like racial division, racial arson, BLM dividing the country, the BLM mission statement that we exist to destroy the Western prescribed nuclear family.